Welcome back everybody. In this video we are going to talk about transitivity. If you haven't already watched my other videos about the accusative, go ahead and watch those. There will be links in the description, and then come back and watch this video. So let's get started. What is transitivity? Transitivity basically means whether a verb can have a direct object or not. There's two different kinds of verbs. Transitive verbs are the verbs that can have direct objects, and there's intransitive verbs, the verbs that cannot have direct objects. So let's look at some examples of intransitive verbs in English, and then we'll look at some examples in Esperanto. So the first one is the water boils. So there's the subject. The subject is the thing that is doing something in the sentence. And then the verb, of course, is the action of the sentence, or what is happening in the sentence. So in this example, the water is the subject. And what is the subject doing? Boils. That's it. There's no direct object in the sentence. The direct object is what is being affected by the verb. So in this case, there's nothing being affected by the verb. The water is there. The water boils, but it's not boiling something else. The next example, he swims in the lake. The same thing, he is there, he's swimming. There's no recipient to his action. I don't want to repeat myself so many times and explain every sentence. I'm just going to kind of show you these and hopefully you can see the pattern. The third example is the cat is sleeping. The sun is shining. It's raining really hard. Do you see the pattern? There's a subject. The subject is doing something, but they're not doing anything to itself or to something else. These are intransitive verbs. So here's some intransitive verbs in Esperanto. I'm going to use some of these verbs in the following examples. You can pause the video here if you want to look at them longer, but I don't want to spend a lot of time. So here's the examples. La birdoj estas ruĝaj. So the birds are red. It's following the same pattern as the English examples. There's the subject is doing something, but they're not doing it to anything. La studentoj sidas en la seĝoj. The students sit in the chairs. Strigoj dormas dum la tago. Owls sleep during the day. Mia fratino ŝatas naĝi. In this case, there's actually two verbs. Naĝi is the one that we're talking about right now, the intransitive verb. La suno brilas en la cielo. The sun is shining in the sky. And for the Game of Thrones friends out there, vintro venas, winter is coming. So you can see looking at these examples that there's the subject and the subject does something. It doesn't happen to anybody or anything. And also, notice how the accusative case is not used in any of these examples. That is because there is no direct object. These are intransitive verbs. The intransitive verbs cannot have direct objects. So let's look at some transitive verbs in English. I boil eggs. This is different from the first example of the intransitive section because now there is a recipient to my action. I am boiling the eggs. The eggs are the direct object. The eggs are the thing that is boiling. Compare this with the water boils. In that sentence, the water was there and it was boiling, but it wasn't boiling anything. In this example, I am boiling something. That something is the direct object. She's playing games. Games are the things that are being played. That's the direct object. The man reads his books. What is he reading? His books. The dog chases his tail. The birds build a nest. So in these examples, you can see that there is the subject, the thing that does something, and they're doing something to something else. This is how transitive verbs work. Transitive verbs can also be used reflexively, so the subject can do something to itself. I have an example of that later. Here's a small list of some common transitive verbs in Esperanto. Again, I'm going to use some of these in the following examples. You can pause the video right here if you want to read through all of them or write them down. And here's the examples with transitive verbs. Mi fermis la pordon. I closed the door. La patrino aĉetos manĝaĵon. The mom will buy food, or the mother will buy food. Ĉu vi vidis vin? So this is what I was talking about earlier, the reflexive. Vi and vin is the same person. So did you see yourself? The subject doesn't always have to act on something else, it can have an effect on itself. Li ne legas la ĵurnalon, he doesn't read the newspaper. Ŝi konas tiun viron, she knows that man. Kion vi faras, what are you doing? So you can see in these examples that there is the subject is doing something to another thing. This is how transitive verbs work. And you will also notice that the accusative case is used in every example. That is because in order to have a direct object, you have to mark it with the accusative case. So to recap real quick, transitive verbs are the verbs that can have direct objects. The accusative case is used to show what the direct object is with transitive verbs. Intransitive verbs cannot have direct objects. The accusative case is not used with the intransitive verbs. So I hope this has been helpful. In the next couple videos that I do, this will be really important information. As always, if you have questions, you can let me know. And geez.